Whoops. So I'm Marianne Rode. My husband was Dusty Rode. I was actually in the Army Nurse Corps, but later, and I never did active duty, and I never was in Vietnam. So I'm telling my husband's story. Both of us graduated from Evergreen High School in 1966, and my husband left shortly thereafter. Wasn't my husband then. For training, he became a sonar technician. He had too much lung capacity, so he didn't qualify for submarines, but he was doing surface ships. His first assignment was the USS Sacramento, and this was a supply ship. They carried everything. They had bombs, ammunition, fuel, food, everything you would need. They also had, unbeknownst to most of them on board the ship, they had nuclear weapons that were not used, but were considered during the Vietnam War. Now, there's an aircraft carrier, the Enterprise on the left, and a destroyer on the right, well, probably a destroyer. And you can see the Sacramento looks like kind of a small ship, but in actuality, here's another view with a helicopter landing on them. So it was actually a pretty big ship all by itself. The helicopters did what we call vertical replenishment, or vert-rep, and they would put big pallets of equipment together, bombs, that kind of stuff, and helicoptered over it and set it down on the deck of the other ship. That patch on the left was their patch. The Tonkin Gulf Yacht Club was a very popular patch with all the Navy sailors, tongue in cheek, obviously. The other thing they did was underway replenishment. Well, the whole thing was underway. To get the fuel onto the other ships, they had these hoses that got draped across, and then they could pump all the fuel. On the right, you can see them readying a pallet to be lifted over by the helicopter. Notice that the guys all have life jackets on. Being on the deck crew was really, really hard work. Sometimes they were working from 16 to 20 hours a day. They would often fall asleep on the deck in between ships because they didn't have time to go to their quarters. They could get swept overboard. It was really a hard job. The Sacramento went back and forth between Yankee Station, which was about 90 miles off the coast of North Vietnam. That's where a lot of the ships in the north of South Vietnam were. They also, and then when they needed to get more supplies, they would sail down to Subic Bay in the Philippines to pick up more, and then go straight back to Yankee Station. They occasionally were in the market time area, which was very close to the coast. They occasionally got shot at, and they have to weigh anchor and move farther offshore. The guys at night could sit on the fantail and what they would call watch the war with the napalm and the explosions on land. They didn't have much time off because they weren't in port very much, but they did get a chance to go to Australia for the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the Battle of the Coral Sea, a famous naval battle of World War II. And on the way down, they got, the sonarmen got, I think it's they call a bosun's chair, and they were strung over to the destroyers to get some experience on sonar, because the Navy had sent 7 sonarmen to a ship that had no sonar. And they later got into trouble for that, and they got them off the ship. On the way to Australia, you have to cross the equator, and there's a famous initiation routine. It's the shellback ceremony, where all the shellbacks on the ship basically harass and initiate the polywogs, which are the newbies. And they did things like making them crawl through garbage and wear weird instruments or wear clothes, carry mops around, and you had to kiss the nude stomach of Neptune that was smeared with mustard. They did a lot of weird stuff. Nowadays, it's more of a big party, barbecue type ceremony. It's gotten cleaned up. On the left is my husband sitting in Sydney, Australia on a dock in front of another aircraft carrier, the Bennington. There he is. After he got off deck crew, he was on the radar scope in the Command Information Center where a lot of the key functions were on board ship. And on the right, he's standing in front of a ship they just replenished, the USS Repose, which was one of the 2 hospital ships that went back and forth in Vietnam, caring for the wounded. Some wounded went straight to the hospital ships. Others went to closer evac hospitals where they were stabilized and then moved on. His next assignment was on the Samuel Gompers, and this was a destroyer tender, and their jobs were to repair all the equipment on the destroyers that were sending bombs across to Vietnam. And they spent most of their time in Sasebo and Yokosuka, Japan, and the destroyers would come back from Vietnam, get repaired, and go back on the line. I wanted to show this because on board a ship, you don't get very much space to yourself. This is what your bedroom looks like. And on the right side is the only private space you had on the ship. So all sailors get really good at folding things to make them as small as possible. And trust me, they never give that up. I put this one in. You all know about drones. Well, we actually had drones in the 60s. They were a little bit bigger. This one's sitting on the Gompers, waiting to be repaired. The other names for the Gompers that the guys gave it were the Sammy G and the Fat Sam. Another famous ship in the Vietnam War was the USS Pueblo, and that was actually a spy ship. And the Gompers and the Pueblo were traveling close together on the way from San Diego to Hawaii when a sailor fell and hurt himself. They later found out he had ruptured his spleen. So he had to be transferred to a ship that had medical facilities. He got transferred to the Gompers. The Gompers continued to Japan. The Pueblo continued to offshore reconnaissance on the off of North Korea, and they were captured and held. The crew was held as prisoners of war for quite some time, so that lucky sailor who ruptured his spleen didn't have to be a POW. And that's mine. Thank you.